The Soundcore Motion Boom. This is a speaker that gets a lot of loving on my channel. The Dockin D Fine 2, second version, or upgraded version. This is a speaker that really doesn't get a lot of loving, other than when I first bought the speaker, I did say I really liked it. It didn't seem to hold up that well when I did it against other boombox type speakers. As I said before, has a lot of lower mids bass weight that I really liked. Wasn't anything quite like it in my collection at that point. Along comes the Motion Boom. Suddenly it doesn't get played anymore. I recently started having another listen to the speaker, and I discovered something I hadn't realized when I first got it, that every time I turn the speaker on, I need to resync it. What do I mean by that? Well, if I want to get maximum volume out of it, I've got to go volume up, volume up, volume up. Each and every time I turn this speaker on to get the maximum volume, get the maximum oomph out of it. So I realized some of those tests that I had previously been doing weren't exactly getting the best out of this speaker. Maybe that's why it didn't hold up quite as well in my comparisons as I was expecting it to do. Put it to the side, didn't really come back to it. So now I've discovered there is a little bit more oomph I can get out of the Dockin D Fine. I thought I'd do a little comparison against the speaker that basically replaced this one, because I was getting, the bass weight out of this, that I was getting a lower, proper deep bass I was getting from there. Then I was getting the same kind of buzz from the bass weight, from the lower mids weight, if that makes any sense. So in different places, but had a particular kind of weight and a warmth to the sound that I liked. So here we are, Motion Boom. The Dockin D Fine 2 is made by a German company. Well, it says on the box it's a German company, but if you look on the speaker, it says it's made in China. It's very hard to find speakers at the moment. Good value speakers, let's face it, but not made in China. Made in China. Made in China. Quick look at the specs, a quick comparison, just to say, on paper, that's a 50 watt speaker. On paper, that's a 30 watt speaker. But we know that does punch well above its weight, well above what we would expect from a 30 watt speaker. So maybe they really will go head to head. Now I've discovered you have to resync it each and every time. But although the Dockin D Fine has come down in price since I bought it, I think it was near 200 quid when I bought it, it's still twice the price of the £80 today when I check on Amazon. The £80 Soundcore Motion Boom. So 150, 160-ish, £80-ish. Basically the same in terms of battery. Both got a reasonable sized battery. 37 watt hours on the Motion Boom, 35.5 watt hours on the Dockin D Fine. But here's the thing, Dockin D Fine, aptX. We really like it when we get aptX, because it sounds like they're serious about their speaker, and we may get something that's a little bit hi-fi. Only SBC, but these days, the codecs don't seem to be making that much difference with our speakers. This does sound good, even though it's got SBC. Imagine if it had tweeters and aptX, or even aptX HD. Wouldn't that be brilliant? Not going to happen tomorrow, that's for sure. And the other thing is, it's the normal 5 volts, 2 amps charging. It's not USB-C on the Dockin D Fine, but it does mean you get higher power charging. So, got a barrel charger, standalone barrel charger, and that will give you something like 38 watts. So, 10 watts of charging, 38 watts of charging. That battery will charge quicker, but hey, gonna have to carry that around. That's gonna be a bit of an issue. And the other thing is, IPX7, and it floats. Drop this in your bath, in your pool, in the sea. You won't lose it, it's gonna float. Drop that in anything, you're in trouble, because it's only IPX5. Basically, it's splash proof. Anything else, you got a problem. That's not great. The woofers are bigger on the Dockin D Fine at 64 millimeters versus the 60 millimeters of the Soundcore Motion Boom. Both have got 2 passive radiators, but hey, oh yeah, brilliant. Got tweeters. 2 tweeters, 2 25mm tweeters on the Dockin D Fine. But honestly, in these type of speakers, I'm not sure how much difference the tweeters make. I know we all said, oh, well, the Motion Plus is great because it's got separate tweeters. I think it's more to do with the fact that they're angled out. Hey, the Motion Boom, got no tweeters. Sounds pretty decent to me. In terms of latency, I did find the Dockin D Fine a bit better than the Motion Boom, but neither of them were fantastic. 110 milliseconds. My cutoff point, personally, 80 milliseconds. After that, you notice, and it could be bothersome. Here's the thing, though, about similar battery, but I was only getting 2 hours, 14 minutes at maximum. 2 hours 14 minutes on maximum there for the Dockin D Fine. I could get 5 hours 51 minutes out of my Motion Boom. Can't really explain that. You think, well, that must have massively more bass, or really does play way, way louder. Does it? Well, no spoilers. We're going to find out. In fact, we're going to go straight in. Going to have a listen to these two speakers at around 45-50% volume.
Hey, yo, Parrish, this shit high, boy.
So you will notice I'm using, obviously, my custom settings on the Motion Boom. That gets the best out of the speaker for me, but I keep it simple. One custom setting, set that around 66-70%. That does mean it's going to sound a bit more muddy at lower volumes, because it does have bass adjustment, and because I'm pushing the bass a bit, it's going to sound a bit more muddy. You can, of course, suit yourself with the EQ if you're using lower volumes. You also notice got two modes. I've actually got three modes on the Dockin D Fine. If I turn it on, and then standard mode is the green light. If I press volume up, volume down, goes red. That tells me I'm in bass mode. Woohoo! It's going to be more bassy. But then we also have I don't know, to extend your battery, but it's a bass cut. I think it's called the clear mode or the light mode or something. It's not a mode I ever use. I don't really see the point of cutting the bass, but hey ho, if you're just listening to podcasts or late at night, that may be something you want to do, or indeed just to extend battery life. So I am using bass mode and standard mode in these tests to compare it to the custom mode on the Motion Boom. If I look at the standard mode on the Dockin D Fine, I would say it clearly has an advantage in upper bass over the Motion Boom, but we know Motion Boom is a deep bass box. That's what you still get. In fact, you get 4 decibels more in the deep bass on the Motion Boom. There's a big difference in the sound signatures, but it is a darker presentation. I said obviously my EQ is not it's not focused at these lower volumes. The mids are pretty recessed, but of course in the EQ, in the app, you could fix that. But yeah, massively bigger deep bass. In fact, at 40 hertz, 8 decibels up on the Dockin D Fine, even though I'm now fully syncing that speaker. But that's standard mode, it's not bass mode. Well, what happens when you go to bass mode? You get an improvement really in the upper bass, and they're nicking it from the deeper bass. So you pay your money, you take your choice. It does reduce the mids a little bit, and indeed even a bit of the presence region. So bass mode really means upper bass kick, which a lot of you I know like, but it's not a free lunch. You're losing some deep bass, you're losing some mids. But hey ho, depending on where you're listening, the environment you're listening in, you do have the option of that. But of course, you've got the option of using any EQ you want in custom setting on the pound for pound, a world champion, the Motion Boom. Okay, we'll take it up a notch. For me, real world listening volumes, that's around 70% volume.
Yo,
Taking action and progressing, I go off on the enemy. That's what makes them scared of me. Make my plans carefully, then execute them daringly. They say I act recklessly, but that's why I'm effective. See, you can't predict my tendencies. I offer no transparency. Some people think I'm lost, others think I'll be a legend. I'm never gonna stop till I'm one above second. And my thoughts at the top, but my mind stay present. Don't let your dreams stop, cause dreaming is a blessing.
They tell me all the same. Told me I won't make a name, but it's not about the fame. It's about keeping me sane. So I stay within my lane. Feel my blood pump through my veins. Feel adrenaline, no pain. Welcome all to my domain. Yeah. So let me break it all down for you.
I ain't never giving up, I ain't never
You know
giving
I'm
up.
taking that crown from you.
I ain't worried about you, I ain't
So
never
let me break it all down for you.
I ain't never giving up, I ain't never
You know
giving
I'm
up.
taking that crown from you.
I ain't worried about you, I ain't never
So let me break it all down for you.
I ain't never giving up, I ain't never
You know
giving
I'm
up.
taking that crown from you.
I ain't worried about you, I ain't never
So let me break it all down for you.
I ain't never giving up, I ain't never
You know
giving
I'm
up.
taking that crown from you.
I ain't worried about you, I ain't here to make
So, bass mode. It's not a real bass mode, is it, on the Dockin D Fine? Doesn't seem so far. And you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, basically. You may never wanted to pay Paul in the first place. So, upper bass. You get more upper bass if you want. It's going to cost you deep bass. It's going to cost you some mids. And hey ho, even in bass mode, you're still like 7-8 decibels down on, say, 40 hertz. Where the Motion Boom really excels for a speaker of that size and that price, to be absolutely honest. However, the Motion Boom does rely a bit on the brilliance region, the harmonics region, like 10 kilohertz and above, certainly with my EQ, for some clarity, for some air, if you like. Whereas the Dockin D Fine, look, it's not it has peaks and dips like most of our speakers. It's not a perfect speaker. But there is something of a hi-fi credential to it. I can start picking out some sort of soundstage, separation, vocals, instruments. There is something of that hi-fi nature to it. I'm not saying it's fantastic sounding, whereas there's no real hi-fi nature to the Motion Boom. I do think it has that going for it, and I would say it has more presence. So when it comes to deep bass, there is no argument. It's the Motion Boom. When it comes to other bits of the presentation, the Dockin D Fine, certainly in its bass mode, does offer something different. But hey ho, we've also got standard mode. For me, yeah, in standard mode, at these volumes, it is starting to sound a bit hard-edged on the Dockin D Fine, and it is upper bass prominent. We're not getting deep bass, certainly at like-for-like volumes. I am preferring smoother, deeper sound of the Motion Boom at these volumes against standard mode. But bass mode, certainly offers something a bit different. And for a lot of people, especially when you go outdoors, when you increase that upper bass, and that I always talk about a slap across the face, a bit more impact. Certainly a lot of people, I think, certainly the extreme 1-2 lovers may actually prefer that sound. I don't know. You can't beat that for value. So 50 watts, 30 watts. What about maximum volume then? Is there, the power would suggest there's headroom on the Dockin D Fine. Is that where it will come into its own? We'll have a listen. 100% volume.
Hey Ross, sauce it up. My wheels got in my bag and I got out my field. I'm getting this paper, I'm stacking a meal. I'm with your hoe in the house on the hills. Yeah. I'ma keep it real, at the sacrifice to try to get my bands up. Shorty wanna fuck with me, she see me on the camera. She said she in love with me, but really I can't stand her. She just want part of this life cause she see me on the ground. Double tap like who I am. Shit can get dangerous, right with the blam. Cause shit can get dangerous, shit can get dangerous. Oh.
Walking to the store, it's a white on an op block. Pull up with a gang, yeah, dancing like it's hot shot. To the LAX, talking back in the drop shot. Bringing all the friends, looking bad in the cross feeling dangerous, so I ice my race. Yeah, I got it clear, yeah, I got it fit. Yeah, I might take your bitch, I ain't take a hit. Watch what you wish, yeah. Like NASCAR, running with a Mac, I can blast far. Trash star, smoky like a pack in my backyard. Black heart, shawty scream my name in the black car. Yeah, she likes it when I hit, when I tap hard. Hey, shawty's the same, not without me, she ain't function. Running out the game, I don't got no time for love. Shawty, stick to your lane, I don't wanna hear you bugging. I live on the east side, with a street side. Yeah, the shawty is a dancer, with a free mind. Yeah, you thought you couldn't handle, yo, she's mine. In the back of the Benz, while she leave you behind. Shit can get dangerous, yeah, shit can get dangerous, yeah. I ain't staying with a lame bitch, yeah. Well, I'm staying with the gang bitch, cause that's gang shit. Like, ooh, and they gon' stay by my side, cause them boys down to ride, yeah. Like, ooh, she tryna play with my mind, I can't be wasting no time, yeah.
In absolute terms, the Motion Boom in custom mode is the loudest, 15.2. That's half a decibel louder than the Dockin D Fine bass mode, and about the same again over the Dockin D Fine in standard mode. The difference though, you can see it's mostly mids and highs now for the Motion Boom. There is a roll-off now in the bass, but the Dockin D Fine hangs on to its bass, so it's more balanced and goes deeper. The difference between the Dockin D Fine in bass mode, the Dockin D Fine in standard mode, you can see standard mode, bass mode. Standard mode, bass mode is reducing the mids and highs and is favouring upper bass compared to standard mode. So standard mode a little bit more balanced, but there isn't a huge amount in it. But compared to the Motion Boom, and by the way, all around 102 decibels in terms of peak, so there isn't that much in it between them. And the difference is it's mids and highs on the Motion Boom, but you are getting bass retained now on the Dockin D Fine. Overall bass, Motion Boom is 4 decibels down on the Dockin D Fine in its bass mode, and 3 decibels down in its standard mode. At 40 Hz, it does still hang in there, the Motion Boom. It's 1 decibel down on the Dockin D Fine in its bass mode, but it's 1 decibel up on the Dockin D Fine in its standard mode. In terms of the mids, the Motion Boom is now the loudest by a decibel or more on the Dockin D Fine. A big difference is the Dockin D Fine still hangs on to an advantage in the presence region, but because of my EQ, the Motion Boom is very strong in the brilliance region, or the harmonics, 6 kHz and up. So for me, Dockin D Fine does surprisingly well at maximum volume and would be the winner for a balanced listen. So hey ho, there is a place for the Dockin D Fine. When you go to maximum volume, obviously, this is the sort of speaker where after 80% of the bass is limiting, you're only increasing mids and highs. When you get to maximum volumes, all you're getting is a bit of a higher pitched sound and less bass, whereas we are holding on to more bass on the Dockin D Fine. Standard mode, I think walks the line between clarity and increasing that upper bass. But you still got the option of going to bass mode, upping the upper bass. But you've got the options. It is holding on to more bass. When you go to maximum volume, probably standard mode on the Dockin D Fine over, say, 90% volume. It's going to be your winner. So, as I said, it's an option. At low volumes, there is some sort of dimension, 3D dimension to the actual soundstage. This is quite boxy and quite compressed, and whereas it might not be the most neutral speaker, and it isn't the most neutral speaker on the block. I do like the presenter. I do like. You can obviously, you don't want to be 6 miles away from the speaker. It's not the sort of thing you're going to notice outside 30 feet away from it. But up close, if you like to listen, get some nuances in your tracks, you will get some of that from the Dockin D Fine. It does what I would call some sort of hi-fi nature in that aspect. It doesn't have the deep bass that you can get at low volumes from the Motion Boom, which is why it's my pound for pound world champion. The Dockin D Fine, certainly one you should think about. Is it going to be the best value? No, it's not. But hey ho, it's going to give you a little bit of a different type of presentation. And yep, if you push it to the maximum volumes, will actually sound, I think, a little bit better, certainly than in my custom mode on the Motion Boom. So you're probably thinking, yeah, I know that, Al, when it sounds quite close, but of course I can get 2 Motion Booms for the same price as a Dockin D. Well, you got me there. 2 Motion Booms, the price of a Dockin D Fine. You're going to be spanking the butt of the Dockin D Fine. But hey ho, if you're not doing that, and you're only traveling, I'll say one speaker, just go around girlfriend's house, you've only got 1 speaker, then it's the option. She's got a pool, she's got the money, you're going around there, you're living the life, going to take 1 speaker, buy the pool, really loud volumes, because you're both having a good time. That may well be the winner. That may be a very niche scenario, but hey ho, I want to give you all scenarios. I want to give you the full overview, I would say, of these 2 speakers. It does have a place. It's not a terrible speaker, but it's not a perfect speaker by any means. At lower volumes, there's a lot of better options. If soundstage means nothing to you, you'll never look at this speaker. I would say at lower volumes, look at this speaker. If you like to listen a little bit more in an intimate way, sometimes with your tracks, your music, just to pick out bits in that track you didn't quite hear it in that way before, you can do it, I think, with the Dockin D. I certainly do. Maybe I'm kidding myself, but I still like that speaker. But if I could only buy 1 speaker, it would be the Motion Boom. And if I had 150 quid, would I get that or that? Would I get 2 Motion Booms, quite honestly? And hey ho, that's the bottom line. Hope you got something out of this video, and I thank you for watching.
I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Ain't no project wife, got my logic right, cause I'm not your type. I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Sorry, ma, I ain't get it right. I'ma just live my life. I ain't about that. I ain't about that life.